6 questions you need to answer if you want to know your osteoporosis risk, the strength of your bones. I get this question a lot as a doctor, especially from females, and I want to flip the script on you today. These are 6 questions that you need to know the answer to. If the answer is not favorable, there's your risk factor, and there's the way to strengthen your bones. So, 6 questions. Let's dive right into it. If you're an osteoporosis sufferer, you're concerned with it, you have a mother or grandmother or a family member that has had it, this is not excluded from men, but it is commonly found in women. How do you protect yourself? What are the tips? What are the things you need to be watching out for? Question number 1. How much vitamin D, D3, and K2 do you take in your diet? How much do you get of those 2 nutrients on a daily basis? Vitamin D3, its job, one of its jobs, it's got a lot of jobs inside of your body, is to take calcium out of your bloodstream and move it into your arteries. So that process of moving that calcium into the arteries is step 1. If it stays that way, you're just going to get calcified arteries. You want calcified bones. Vitamin K2, not to be confused with vitamin K1, which is involved with clotting. K2 protects the arteries. Here's how it does it. It takes the calcium out of the arteries and it moves it to the bone. So these 2 shuttles are the bus rides for calcium getting into your bones. So the mistake a lot of people make is they only focus on taking more calcium, but they don't focus on the bus rides. They don't focus on the transportation of the calcium. You typically do not need more calcium. I don't recommend going over 600 to 800 milligrams per day of calcium. You will end up calcifying your arteries if you put too much of that in. You still need some, but not too much. Focus on vitamin D3 and K2. How much should we be taking of those? Well, there are some charts below and some resources below that you can look at to understand your optimal vitamin D3 levels, but the simple way to do is measure it. Your vitamin D3 needs to be above 50, below 100. 50 to 100 is a great range. You can see where the vitamin D3 is at, and then here's how much to take on a daily basis. Okay. Myself, I take about 4,000 IUs each day to keep my immune system strong. It ebbs and flows with the temperature outside. As soon as that big globe in the sky goes away for everybody north of Florida, half of the year during the wintertime, we don't have the luxury of getting it from the sun. We've got to get it from supplementation. So 4,000 IUs of that a day, paired with a 10th or a 20th of that dose in vitamin K2. So you're looking for about 100 to 200 milligrams, micrograms per day. So 4,000 IUs of the vitamin D, 100 to 200 micrograms of the vitamin K2. You're in a solid place. If you've never supplemented with K2 before, you've never gotten K2 into your diet, I would recommend between 400 and 800 micrograms a day to get that higher, because chances are there could be calcium sitting in the arteries. You need to move it to the bones. This is question number 1. Question number 2, how much physical activity are you engaging in? Specifically, using weight, body weight, weight training, bands. Are you challenging your body in that regard? Even in a pool, using some resistance to work out. Now, when you go for a walk, you go for a run, you go for a bike ride, there's not a lot of resistance to the upper body. There's a little bit of resistance to the lower body. So if you are doing physical activity, you need to add in that resistance and put some pressure on the bones. And it may sound counterintuitive, but it actually forces your body to respond against the stress and strengthen the bones. My favorite form of this for osteoporosis is rebounding. Jumping on a mini trampoline actually helps to stimulate the production of bone from your legs all the way up through your spine, which is a typical place that osteoporosis resides. Of course, if you have a bad spine or degeneration or some kind of injury in your legs, you might not be able to do that one. But rebounding, mini trampoline, I have resources and videos on that below. Number 3, the third question, do you smoke or do you drink? If you smoke frequently, your bones are going to weaken over time. If you drink heavily, your bones are going to weaken over time. It's a habit that's got to be addressed. I know it's not easy to always break that habit, but that is one that we've got to be counteracting. Number 4, are you underweight, or, I'm going to be careful with this term, I'll explain what it means, or over fat? Are you underweight or over fat? We want to be somewhere in between. Let me explain what those 2 terms mean. I'm not trying to call anyone fat. It's actually terminology. I'll explain it. But let's go underweight first. If you are underweight, you're lacking the nutrients, you're not absorbing the minerals into the body. Traditionally, bone mass has suffered from being underweight, that can create osteoporosis type scenarios. Now, on the other side of the scale, overfat syndrome is a condition where your BMI might be okay. And if you've never calculated your BMI, it's worth a Google just to look up your height along with how much you weigh is going to create your BMI. A third of Americans are actually considered overweight and obese, and then 70+% of Americans are considered overweight. So 30% plus at obese, 70% plus at overweight. And so with this discrepancy there, your BMI could be even in a normal range or even only saying overweight, but you have a lot of extra fat on your body. So if your waist circumference, right, that in inches, maybe it's 35 or 30 or 40, if you were to take your height, your waist should be less than half. So if you are 60 inches tall, you're going to want this to be around 30 inches round. If you're 72 inches tall, you're 6 foot tall, right? Now we're looking around 35, 36 for the waist. That's how you can tell, because a lot of people carry extra fat in this area. And why that's important is because that extra fat being on the body is drawing nutrients from the system, and usually means that habits of eating are out of balance, and sugar and carbohydrates are way too prominent. If those are prominent, they're actually going to suck nutrients from the system. So we're going to look at, if you're too underweight, we want to do physical training, do physical activity, eat clean amounts of protein and clean amounts of fat to put a little bit of weight on. If you are having overfat where there's more fat around your waist circumference, then we want to look at doing fasting and doing the nutritional guidelines that we lay out with the resources below. Question number 5, are you female? Being female, hormonally, you are naturally greater risk of having osteoporosis and bone mineral density problems. The minerals in the bone density start to decrease once you hit menopause. So during that period of time, it's very crucial to be getting important minerals into the system, as well as counteracting it with this physical activity. And then finally, are you a sugar burner? I just spoke on it. Sugar is an anti-nutrient. It also is a hormone destroyer. Insulin is the shuttle that has to deal with all the sugar that comes into the system when we eat it. Insulin is also the bully on the playground for every other hormone. So there's a direct correlation with too much insulin being in the body, dysregulation of estrogen and your female hormones, especially men, for your testosterone and your belly fat. Those hormones go down. They're not as productive, which means your bone density also goes down. So not only is sugar putting on weight, but it's also an anti-nutrient, and it's an anti-hormonal effect that happens inside of your body. So if you are what I call a sugar burner, your primary fuel source are carbohydrates, proteins that turn into sugar, or sugar-fueled foods, or hidden sugars. We've got to switch you over to being a fat burner, where your body is tapping into burning fat for fuel. Fat actually creates hormones. Hormones are made out of it, and it's going to optimize the insulin level inside of your body, which is going to take the pressure off your hormones, which is going to be very osteoporosis and bone friendly. 6 questions to answer if you are struggling with those. Now, from a nutritional standpoint, from an overfat standpoint, if you need help, check out these videos right here as further resources, and the resources below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I'll keep bringing you simple ways to get this thing called health. Osteoporosis, 6 questions. This one might need to be shared with someone. Comment below. Let me know what you think.